Hi everyone and welcome to another painting tutorial. So today I'm going to take you through how I painted this Nurgle Icon Bearers standard bearer, well the icon itself. So it doesn't really matter as to what undercoat you use, but I did in this case use a white scar undercoat, and as you can see I've actually already applied the black and thrush metal by scale 75, and then on the demonic symbol just in the center there, I did go for Balthazar gold. So as you can see, just with approximately an even mix of Mantis Warriors green and contrast medium, I'm just going to begin by doing that sort of grimy, classic sort of Nurgle effect that we all know and love. And as you can see as well, just being quite selective as to where I put it, as I didn't want to just cover the entire icon with it. So there will be plenty more effects to come, and I wanted to get a nice balance all across the icon. So after giving the Mantis Warriors green contrast paint approximately 20 minutes to half an hour to dry, I decided to shade over the entirety of the icon with Poxwalker. Now, I will be doing 2 coats of this, so you want to leave, again, approximately 20 minutes to half an hour should be fine between coats. If you're happy after one coat's fine. However, I wanted to darken mine down a little bit more, so I did decide to do 2 coats. So with the shades now applied, I decided to move on to Brass Scorpion to begin highlighting out the Balthazar gold. And as you can see, I also shaded that with the Poxwalker, 2 coats as well. And I should mention as well, some of the time I do, when I'm doing metallics, just so as to increase the longevity of the lifespan of my more expensive brushes, I do tend to use my cheap nylon brushes. So you can find them anywhere on eBay or online really. For example, I got a 6-pack of these for $6, approximately $6 Australian, and they obviously don't last as long as the higher quality brushes. However, when using metallics frequently, shades, contrast paints, and things like that, it is ideal to use these, as they do hold a good point initially, certainly well enough for base coating, shading, or even initial highlights, such as the heavy metal stage of by scale 75 that I'm currently doing now. So yeah, definitely worth checking those out. I have mentioned them in other videos before, but just in case you're new to the channel, definitely look into those, as they are very affordable for any hobbyist, and really useful as well, just so you're not burning through your $20 to $30 brushes as often. So with some of the metal highlights now done, I decided to move on to Cableite Green. Now, This is Caberlight Green, predominantly Lahmian Medium in the mix, as I wanted this to be almost as though it's a shade. It should apply in a similar fashion to Nylock Oxide, and we will be getting to that technical paint quite soon. But I decided to go with Caberlight Green just to darken some of the recesses before moving up into more of the highlight stages, which we will get to shortly. So again, as with the contrast paints, using this quite sparingly. So as you can see, really just picking out a few points there. Just so that all of the colors complement one another without taking away too much. Now for this next stage, Caberlight Green and Glacier Blue. So again, Caberlight Green by Citadel and Glacier Blue by Vallejo. This was actually the first time that I'd used this, and it's an awesome color. As you can see, the actual tone of the color is quite similar to Nylock Oxide, and this is mixed with quite a bit of Lahmian Medium. So you can really mix it how you want. However, I'd highly recommend mixing a lot heavier on the Lahmian Medium side, and then you can always add a little bit more paint to the mix if you feel as though it's diluted it too much. But I was really happy with how this was applying. So for the most part, just picking out a few areas and going over some of the Caberlight Green that I'd done prior to this stage. And now just to wear it down even further, I decided to, after giving this again about 20 minutes to half an hour to dry, I'm just going to apply some Nylock Oxide just over some of the previous details that I've added in here. For the most part, just to help it contrast that little bit more. Now at this stage, I wasn't sure as to whether or not I was taking this a step too far, as I really was happy with the appearance, but it is Nurgle we're talking about here, so I decided to go with Typhus Corrosion, a technical paint by Citadel. If you are doing a Chaos Army, whether it's in Age of Sigmar or 40k, I'm sure alongside Rise of Rust, that complements Typhus Corrosion, you would find this technical paint really, really useful, as it certainly does give a really cool rust effect. Now, I do intend on doing a tutorial on rust effects, which you can do using a variety of different colors mixed with lamy and medium, or even just heavily watered down. However, this is a really, really great go-to, especially if you're just learning. As you can see, in my opinion, it has complemented this particular style quite a bit, especially once we get to highlighting the Typhus Corrosion with the Rise of Rust that I mentioned, and also picking out some of those metal details again. And just another thing on Typhus Corrosion, you definitely want to be using one of your older brushes, or even just a very cheap brush, like the nylon brushes that I've just mentioned, for example, is what I'm using for this. Similar to texture paint, it will ruin the bristles of your nicer brushes, so you definitely want to avoid using your nicer brushes when applying this. And after giving the Typhus Corrosion about half an hour to dry, I'm just going to begin highlighting all of that with some Rise of Rust. Now, don't be overly concerned if some of this overlaps onto some of the metallic, as it will be quite faint, and again, in my opinion, it will contrast quite nicely with all of the other details there. So, as always, just removing most of that paint onto some paper towel, and just gradually building that up, and as you can see, the effect is coming together really, really nicely already. And now, just with some heavy metal by scale 75, I'm just going to begin highlighting out all of the rusted parts that we've just done. So for the most part, really just an edge highlight, and this will just bring out the details even further. And as you can see, I've really just jumped right to that stage. You don't really have to be overly concerned with dry time when it comes to dry brushing, especially on a smaller scale. And just as some final touches, I decided to just go back to Mantis Warrior's green contrast paint, just straight from the pot this time, and I'm just going to go over some of the rusted areas, just to give it that really Nurgle-like effect. And as you can see, the green really contrasts quite nicely against the Nylock oxide effect as well. With the Cablite green and Glacier blue mixes that we did as well, just to build that up. And just as a last little complimentary highlight, I decided to use some Bad Moon Yellow contrast. Just lightly picking out some of those Mantis Warriors green areas that we've just done. And obviously the Mantis Warriors green wouldn't be completely dry at that point, however I was fine with that blending. Just having a bit of fun with it really, and I definitely recommend just doing that yourselves. I find that the new contrast paints work exceptionally well alongside metallics, as they're very vibrant and they can make for some awesome shading. So here are some photos of the completed miniature. I hope you found this tutorial useful today. Thank you so very much to all of my subscribers. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do, as it certainly helps me along the way. Thank you so very much for watching, and I will see you again in the next one.